I think that Alberta is the crucible, the laboratory for conservative and freedom-oriented and smaller government ideas in Canada. In fact, I think you could argue that it has been that place for more than a century. A lot of political leaders, a lot of political parties come out of Alberta. And right now, a movement that has a fair bit of life to it is the Alberta independence movement. And as you may know, Rebel News had some town hall meetings in Calgary, Red Deer, Edmonton, and even one in Saskatoon. And hundreds of people came out just to explore the ideas. Well, a couple of days ago, there was a rally outdoors in the cool weather in Edmonton, and thousands of people came. And one of them was our friend Sheila Gunn-Reid, our chief reporter. She joins us now via Zoom. Hey, Sheila, how was it? What was it like? First of all, who sponsored the rally? How many people were there? Who spoke? Just give us some facts about it.
Sure. Ezra, it was an incredible sea of blue. It was just nothing but Alberta flags and thousands of people. Now, there's some disputes over how many people were there. I asked the police on scene, take this for what you will. They said between 5,000 and 6,000, which is still...
Really? That's huge.
It's an enormous number for a nonpartisan political rally. The only rally I've seen bigger would be Poilievre's final rally in Edmonton. That was like 12 to 14,000. But this is nonpartisan. There's no political money backing it the way that it would back a political party. The organizers, the Alberta Prosperity Project, organized this on kind of short order, not too long, maybe a couple of weeks. Their numbers, using drone footage and some analysis of that, suggest closer to 10 or 12,000. I would believe either one of those numbers. It's hard to get a grasp on how big a crowd is when you're in the middle of it and all you see is just a sea of humanity. Like, for example, I thought there was people sort of up top of the plaza because they ran out of room on the plaza, and I thought, oh, those are the antis. Like, those are the counter protesters. I went up there, nope, same rally, just they ran out of room and it was up top. It was just an enormous bunch of people. We had Jeffrey Rath. He's the lawyer who undid much of Jason Kenney's COVID madness here. We had trucker lawyer Keith Wilson. He spoke. There were other Alberta Prosperity Project linked people, but also Chris Scott. So the Whistle Stop Cafe owner who stood up at great personal cost against the COVID mandates, and now he's standing up for Alberta independence.
Well, we know all those folks. Very interesting. Now, you mentioned counter-protesters. Were there any?
I guess. I ran up to take a look, and I was safe to do that, not only because I was in thousands of friendly folks, but because the police were guarding these antis pretty carefully. There were about a dozen or so police officers guarding about 8 counter-protesters. They look exactly how you would imagine they look. There was one openly Antifa guy waving an Antifa flag. There was, your obligatory Handmaid's Tale LARPer. She was there. The ladies of the left need a new book. Yeah. They really do. But, there was just 8 people, your regular left-wing kooks from downtown Edmonton that wandered down there. But that was it, really.
Well, I suppose if they use plural pronouns, that would double the number. So there's 8 people there, but they all call themselves they, them. Maybe that's like 16 people. I don't know. I don't know how the math works. Now, I saw this clip. It sort of made me smile. A couple years ago, when Danielle Smith was running for the UCP, United Conservative Party leadership, there was a forum held by the Alberta Prosperity Project, and if you can believe it, they asked me to be one of the MCs in this debate. So it was a forum and a debate, and I put a question to Danielle Smith, which I guess they liked because they played it and the answer at the rally, and didn't that make me feel good? Here, let's play a clip of that. This is at the big rally. The audio is from a couple years ago, though, when I moderated the debate. Here, take a look.
Ezra, I hope your eyes are better after getting pepper sprayed over in Ireland, I think it was this week. But he asked a question during the leadership campaign for the United Conservative Party. And Danielle Smith was the one who answered. Carrie, hit the audio.
Economic minority, but they did something different. They had an or else added to the end of it. How far are you willing to go? Are you willing to say, we want these things or else? At what stage would you, for example, invoke the Clarity Act as clarified by the Supreme Court? For example, calling a referendum on the Clarity Act question of secession. Do you have an or else in mind? What is it and what would make you use it? And if not, how are you serious? And I'll start off with Danielle Smith on that one.
The or else is Dennis Modry and the Alberta Prosperity Project. It's true. We proclaimed into law on April the 7th the Citizen Initiative Act, which gives the people the power to collect signatures for a petition campaign to propose an amendment. If it's a simple matter of policy, it's a 10% threshold. If it's a constitutional change, it's a 20% threshold. That would mean 600,000 signatures. And as I understand it, Dr. Modry has 1 million people on his database. So part of when I decided I wanted to run, I knew how important it was to make sure that we addressed the issues of autonomy. And I talked to Dr. Modry as one of my first steps. I said, let's try this together. Let's get as much autonomy as we can. Full well knowing that he's got the power, you've got the power. If we're not successful, and this is why I take your movement very, very seriously, and why Justin Trudeau should take it very, very seriously too, because you have the power to be able to be the or else.
Well, that's sort of fun, but I think it is the essential point. I mean, in politics, you can take your base for granted if they have nowhere else to go. I suppose your base can, quote, stay home. But if you can, like, can you take Alberta for granted? Can any party take Alberta for granted? Well, if there's no or else, then the answer is yeah, probably. And my question to Danielle Smith, who's now the Premier, implied, let's say you try and fail, like so many Albertan leaders have tried and failed before. Are you willing to push that button, that independence button? And her answer is sort of, right? Because she's allowing the referendum and making it a little bit easier. She's sort of neutral about it, but the fact that she would give it her blessing itself is a big positive. How did this crowd sound in regards to Danielle Smith? Because in a way, she's enabled their referendum, but she's not sort of cheering for it. I think she's taking a neutral stance, which is probably wise. What's the mood about her?
You know, I didn't meet a single person there who would not have been a UCP voter, like a United Conservative Party voter. I think the Venn diagram, as they say, on these people being Conservative Party voters, United Conservative Party voters, it's a circle. These are the UCP base. And as I said in my upcoming video on this, you discard these people at your peril. I think there are people who are perfectly happy to have Danielle Smith fight with the feds, fight for provincial autonomy, fight for our jobs, fight for our pipelines, fight for our firearms rights. But in the meantime, do all that while they work towards independence. They're not anti-Danielle Smith. In fact, I think a lot of people appreciate her hands-off approach. I don't think people want political meddling. And yet, there's the likes of Jason Kenney, who repeatedly goes after the sovereigntist movement as in the same language that Justin Trudeau used to go after the Freedom Convoy. These are a bunch of fringe. These are a bunch of radicals. These are a bunch of wackos.
Yahoos.
They sure didn't look that way to me when I was there. In fact, they're people who likely voted for Jason Kenney in the past.
You know, I mean, Jason Kenney is a pundit out there, but he's also in private business. And sometimes I wonder who his clients are and if he's speaking for himself or for his clients. I'm not quite sure. Let me ask you a question, because I've been focused on Mark Carney, and he has been really wobbly in his negotiations with Donald Trump. He promised he would be the guy who could handle Trump better than anyone else. Turns out he's the guy who Trump doesn't want to meet with over anyone else. Like Trump will literally, he's cutting deals every day, but he will not talk with Carney. It's sort of weird to watch, but I'm listening to Carney anyways. He was in Malaysia, and he said Canada has clean energy to offer, and we have what the world wants. He's basically been saying that for a while, but I don't know what he means by clean energy. I think he means LNG, liquefied natural gas. but I don't think he means oil, even though places like India and well, basically everyone in the world would prefer to buy our oil if they could. Do you think Mark Carney is going to allow a pipeline of oil to be built? I actually think he'll approve LNG. Do you think he's going to allow any oil?
No, absolutely not. That's why I wasn't such a cheerleader for Bill C-5 when it was being rammed through the House of Commons. I don't think the government should be deciding private projects that are in the nation's interest. They should meet a specific criteria for safety, and then that's it. The government should get out of the way. But when they attach this in the nation's interest to it, what I believe is in the nation's interests and what the Liberals believe are in the nation's interests are two far different things. You're going to see, I think, all sorts of green energy projects being approved in the nation's interests, and a lot of Liberal-linked friends and insiders being enriched by these projects that are being approved because they're in the nation's interest. But do I believe that a pipeline will go forward? No. And like the Liberals before him, Mark Carney is offloading the voice of no to somebody else so he can say, look, I tried, I kept my hands clean. David Eby says no, and Quebec says no. It's not me saying no. Can't you see I tried? And so do I think that any of these projects that are in the nation's interest related to Alberta are going to go forward? Absolutely not. When Mark Carney says that the world wants what Canada has, I think he means maybe liquefied natural gas, which is fine. But I think some weird, quirky green project too, like offloading some sort of weird green tech that's developed in Canada for $1 gajillion to Brookfield Asset Management. That's what I think he means.
You know, when I was in Bermuda for 4 hours earlier this year, trying to track down one of his shell companies, I discovered them in Bermuda. All his green companies have this sort of storefront office in Bermuda. None of them operate there, by the way. It's just basically compliance lawyers and clerks. And he hasn't sold any of his stock. He has still held on to all his stock, and he makes money with these green schemes. And just, I mean, 99+% of his stocks are foreign. He just doesn't believe in Canadian companies. In fact, his last act as head of Brookfield was to move their head office out of Canada. I think, you say there's between 6,000 and 12,000 people at the separate independence rally in Edmonton. When it becomes clear, when you get a hard no on a pipeline, I think then you will see those numbers skyrocket. Right now, people are trying to understand Carney. What does he mean? He speaks in foggy emanations. It's tough to understand him. But he's been prime minister for almost 230 days, which is a lot more than it feels like, because he hasn't done a bloody thing.
Right.
And it's coming up on a full year. And what exactly has he done?